The room is silent, 12 people, one table, and a dashboard on the screen showing numbers that should not exist. You already know what they mean. Everyone in this room already knows. But nobody says it, because the second someone says it out loud, this stops being a problem, and it becomes a reality. You keep your face neutral. Not because you are calm, because the moment they see fear on you, the company stops being a company and turns into prey. Outside this building, the story is still intact. The press release from 2 weeks ago still reads like confidence. Employees are still posting branded optimism on LinkedIn. Customers still believe the platform works. Investors still think this is a rough quarter. The board still wants to believe it's temporary. That is the story everyone else is living. The story you are living is different. You know the product failure is worse than the memo said. You know the revenue recognition is more fragile than the market realizes. You know legal has gone from cautious to pale. You know the CFO has stopped speaking in full sentences. And you know the most dangerous thing of all. Time is no longer your ally. It used to be. A week to verify, a few days to investigate, another quarter to reframe. Time was the thing leaders used to shape reality. Now, time is exposing it. Every hour you wait is another hour for an engineer to post, a journalist to call, a regulator to get a partial version before you give them the full one. Your phone lights up, board chair, call me now, general counsel, need alignment before noon. Investor relations, media asking for comment. Operations, regional teams escalating. Chief communications officer, we need one internal line before rumors spread. This is how disaster actually arrives, not as one clean explosion, as overlap. Technical failure becoming legal exposure becoming disclosure risk becoming market risk becoming employee panic becoming customer fear, and customer fear, if it catches the right scent, becoming the kind of loss no spreadsheet can model. You sit down and you notice something. Everyone in this room is watching your face, not because they're unprofessional, because your expression now has direct consequences. If you look calm, maybe this is survivable. If you look shaken, the system starts breaking faster than the problem itself. So you give them the version of you they need. Measured voice, controlled breathing, questions instead of reactions. How far does this spread? What do we know for certain? Who has already seen the raw numbers? What exactly did we tell the board last quarter? Not because questions solve the disaster, because structure is the only thing standing between a crisis and a stampede. The board call starts in 20 minutes. Not enough time to fix anything. Only enough time to choose which version of reality enters the room first. And that is the central dilemma, the one nobody teaches you in business school because nobody wants to admit it exists. Tell the truth now, and you may trigger the very collapse you are trying to prevent. Investors run, employees spiral, customers freeze. The stock gets punished before context even exists. Wait, and maybe you buy enough time to stabilize. Maybe the team patches it. Maybe the lawyers narrow the exposure. Maybe you frame it as contained instead of systemic. Or maybe that instinct to manage the sequence is exactly how temporary damage becomes permanent disgrace. The CFO speaks quietly. The liquidity runway is shorter than modeled if customer churn accelerates. Soft, technical, almost polite, but beneath it is the thing itself. If confidence breaks, cash goes with it. And now this is no longer just a product issue. It's a confidence crisis. Which means it is alive, which means it feeds on reaction. Every Slack message, every analyst note, every awkward pause on an investor call, every rumor in a hallway, all of it now part of the balance sheet. Because in modern business, value is not built only from assets, it is built from belief. And belief is fast until it is gone. The board appears on screen, faces in boxes, one from New York, one from London, one already angry, one calculating how to protect himself if this needs a sacrificial ending. You present the issue. Not fully, not falsely either. You give them enough to understand seriousness, not enough to trigger an irreversible reaction before the facts are contained. And the questions come fast. When did you first know? Can this affect guidance? What is worst case? What do we say if this leaks today? That last one. Not what happened, not what is true. What do we say? That is when a company reveals what it actually worships. Because under maximum pressure, every institution returns to its real God. Some worship truth, some worship survival. Most worship continuity and call it responsibility. By late afternoon, the room feels smaller. Drafts of statements everywhere. Legal markups, press scenarios, a banker calling with market color, which is just a cleaner phrase for how badly uncertainty gets punished. And then the message arrives. A reporter has documents. Not all of them. Enough. The question changes shape instantly. It is no longer whether the truth gets out. It is whether it comes out through you. That difference is everything. If the story breaks before you speak, your silence becomes part of the story. Every delay looks intentional. Every careful phrase looks strategic. Every earlier reassurance gets replayed with the worst possible interpretation. The company no longer looks like it faced a crisis. It looks like it engineered one. You stand by the window. The city is still moving below. Cars, pedestrians, coffee cups, ordinary life continuing outside a building, quietly beginning to choke on its own mythology. And in this moment, you see the whole architecture of corporate power with sudden, brutal clarity. How easy it is for institutions to become addicted to confidence. How success teaches people to tolerate distortion if the story remains useful. How leaders get rewarded for certainty long after certainty stops being honest. How hiding never begins with evil. It begins with convenience. One soft phrase, one delayed disclosure, one quarter where the language stretches just slightly further than the reality beneath it. And then you look at the statement on the screen. It is full of careful language. Legal caution, corporate anesthesia, built to reduce volatility, to preserve leverage. To offend no one while reassuring everyone vaguely, it also sounds exactly like what guilty companies say right before things get worse. You have heard versions of this your entire career, and you know what comes after. So you start cutting, line by line. Impacted becomes broken. Review becomes failure. At this time, disappears entirely. What remains is harsher, more dangerous, more expensive, but finally real enough to stand on. The room goes quiet. This will hurt, maybe badly. Investors will react. The board may turn. Journalists will sharpen every contradiction. Plaintiffs will circle. Some employees will admire this decision. Some will update their resumes before the memo finishes loading. But there is one thing that changes the moment you stop hiding. You no longer have to spend intelligence maintaining two realities. You no longer have to act calm while secretly feeding the machine that makes calm impossible. For the first time all day, the room feels honest enough to breathe in, not safe. Honest. And that is the closest thing executive leadership ever offers to peace. Because the truth nobody tells you about corporate disaster is this: the hiding is almost always more exhausting than the damage. The split-screen existence, public certainty, private dread, the endless translation of fear into acceptable language. That is what hollows people out. Not the scandal, the carrying of it. The most dangerous moment is not when disaster happens. It is when you realize you can still hide it. What would you do in that chair? Disclose early and risk the collapse? Or buy time and risk becoming the scandal itself? Drop your answer in the comments. And if you want more stories from inside the rooms where power starts separating appearance from reality, subscribe. New video every week.